Okay, welcome back, everyone. We will now begin the second part of the online colloquium. Our panel of experts will give their insights about the future of the Jeonju ICH Award and the public accessibility of ICH. Before starting the discourse, I would like to briefly introduce our expert panel. First, we are joined by 8 ICH experts around the world. Professor Amaris War Gala of Anat University, Ambassador Dongwan Choi of Africa Insight, Professor Gilad Zuckerman of University of Adelaide, Madame Yorlin Nehring of Workshop Intangible Heritage Vendors, Madame Noriko Aikawa, former director of ICH Unit of UNESCO, Professor Laureate Turgeon of Laval University unfortunately could not make it today, Professor Samina Oh of Chunbuk National University, and Madame Jessica Rossi of University of Naples La Oriente. The above mentioned expert panel introduction is the order of our discourse section. Kindly note that we have 50 minutes in total for this section and that each expert will be given 4 minutes to speak on the future of the Jeonju ICH Awards and the public accessibility of ICH. After having all of our experts speak, we will have a 10-minute Q&A for our experts, followed by a summary from Director Hani Ham of CICS. We will begin with Professor Gala. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Shinwa. Hi, everyone. What a wonderful gathering and wonderful presentations. Thank you to all the presenters. The awards are very significant in their global impact. Each year, the spread is greater. The diversity of applications are wonderful. I think that the future directions will be determined by the applicants and the awardees through their own excellence. So it's the bearers and transmitters and the facilitators determining the directions. From the presentations, I think what we can learn in the future directions of the awards is that the importance of Amy's presentation about diaspora. Not only Korean, but Indian, for example, Chinese, there's so many African diaspora all over the world. What happens with diaspora, with the intangible heritage of their source communities or their home communities where they come from? It transforms, it changes, and it excels in different ways. So, and I think that revitalization and the role of museums is really wonderful. Our young colleagues from Philippines, from the Cordilleras, their presentation of what they're doing for community-based revitalization. So I see that the future directions of the awards and of course, congratulations to the Center for Intangible Cultural Studies for their choreographing the processes and facilitating the processes. There are 3 directions that I see. One is the notion of safeguarding, being understood better through the process of the awards and the colloquia like this, because safeguarding 20 years on is much more widely known now, but still to be understood better. The second thing is the notion of inventorization needs to be understood better, because if something that which is living can't be documented and frozen in time, the inventories need to be living systems. And how does one do this with intangible heritage that's living, dynamic, and ever-changing? And the third thing I already mentioned is connecting not only with the source communities or home communities, but also with diaspora and the creativity that Amy talked about how creativity contributes to recognition of the diversity of the evolution of, intangible heritage elements. I think I'll leave it at that with my 4 minutes. But once again, congratulations to everybody for the colloquium and the Center for Intangible Cultural Studies, and to Shinwa for organizing it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Gala. Moving on, we have Ambassador Dewan Choi, who will give his insights. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Shinwa. My deep thanks go to 4 presenters for their wonderful presentations, which I appreciate very much and congratulate on. I'd like to talk specifically about the UNESCO's action of promoting ICH and the challenges to implement the 2003 convention in Africa. This is because the reality is that efforts to preserve and transmit ICH in African continent are not easy as in other regions. Please note that I'm speaking after listening the opinion of close African friends. Efforts within the framework of ICH of UNESCO and the other international institutions towards the African continent are mainly directed to strengthen capacity building of human resources of the African states to safeguard their intangible heritage, such as institutional capacity building workshop to raise awareness on the 2003 convention and the elaboration of inventories, workshop on developing policies in the field of ICH safeguarding, and field work for inventorying and digital archiving, etc. Challenges for the implementation of the convention. One of the most common reasons attributed to ICH specific laws are migration developments that affect cultural barriers in transmitting practices. In fact, around 40% of all endangered practices classified as in need of urgent safeguarding are attributed to urbanization and migration, specifically towards outward migration. Emigration to further education or work, urban development and settlement, migration between communities, and forced displacement of cultural barriers have resulted in a loss of ICH practices. Somewhat relatedly, modern technologies and associated broader economic impact influence people's possibility to engage in ICH-related practice and transmission processes. The relationship between new technological developments, economic impact, and ICH represents about 35% of all endangered practices inscribed in the UNESCO list. At the same time, cultural barriers are increasingly finding it difficult to secure new raw materials. Also, the more expensive and sophisticated techniques of ICH sector are being replaced by cheaper and simpler alternatives. This inevitably raises questions about cultural ownership and the open nature of intangible heritage practices. In fact, most of the less educated people ignore cultural property protection laws. Urban migration also has a major impact on the transmission of intangible heritage between generations, namely in rural areas. These challenges requires a high level of education as well as the formation of experts for a deep understanding of issues related to ICH around the world, especially in each African country. The lack of local experts in Africa causes the lack of literature, libraries, museums, etc., and lack of intellectual discussion, such as media, TV programs involved in ICH, and lack of publications on ICH in Africa, which result in a weakening of the public awareness and accessibility to ICH. In this respect, I believe the UNESCO and the leading countries in the field of ICH should assist the African countries in their efforts to implement the convention. The future direction of the JIAPICH. The Jeonju International Intangible Cultural Heritage Promotion Award is one of the rare platforms where experts and professionals of ICH from around the world can gather together to showcase the world's best practices and give visibility in a competitive atmosphere. I'm confident that the past 5 years of JIAPICH have been successful. As for the prospects for the next edition, it would be good to seek ways to promote the protection and promotion of ICH by making the winners, laureates, guardians of the spirit of JIAPICH in their countries. On the other hand, it would be good for Jeonju City to supervise the overall selection process for the JIAPICH Award independently as much as possible, but to seek ways to officially recognize the JIAPICH Award at the UNESCO level and register it internationally in cooperation with UNESCO. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Choi. Next, we have Professor Gilad Zuckerman. The floor is yours.
Look, firstly, I would like to thank you so much for the invitation. It was so interesting and for your contribution. And I liked very much what Amar and the ambassador said before me. So I will just very quickly, in the 3.5 minutes that I have, I will just, I want to mention one point, but getting there from the 4 revolutions of language. I want to say that Zhangzhou, I hope I pronounce it correctly, is a perfect region, literally, Zhangzhou, for what we are doing. And there are not too many cities in the world who have any idea about intangible cultural heritage. So it's wonderful. So I just want to mention the 4 revolutions that happened in language. So 70,000 years ago, we had the most important revolution, and that was the emergence of speech. Now, prior to the emergence of speech, we could not, for example, offend people without with words. I mean, we could maybe frighten them, but we could not offend them. So speech was a very major revolution. Then came another revolution, and that was writing. It was 5,200 years ago. The reason was economic. It was because of thieves who stole wheat from Iraq to Israel, and then we needed to write 4 units of wheat, etc. That was a very important revolution, resulting at the end with amazing literature, etc. The third linguistic revolution was 500 years ago with the type printing. It happened both in China and, of course, with Johannes Gutenberg, 1450, etc. And the 4th revolution, and that's the most important one for why we must keep this prize award, is the technological revolution. The technological revolution is a huge revolution that we probably underestimated until ChatGPT. Now, my fear is that on the one hand, ChatGPT and the technological revolution might allow us to kind of free ourselves from work and then maybe resort to intangible cultural heritage. But the fear I have is that more and more institutions in the world will discard of the importance of intangible cultural heritage. I can see such developments at my own university today, at many Australian universities, the end of the humanities and the arts as we know it. I don't know if you're aware of it, but in Australia, when you study arts, you need to pay $50,000, whereas when you study nursing, you don't need to pay anything. So in other words, the government is making sure that people would discard intangible cultural heritage. So I would like to urge people to realize that this is an amazing prize award, and we must keep it, especially because of the game-changing revolution that we are experiencing, in the sense that in 10 years' time, a PhD, for example, will be very, very different from what a PhD is today. So I do not know exactly what this revolution will look like in 10, 20 years, but I can tell you that there is, I fear for intangible cultural heritage. And therefore, I think that we should all fight for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Next, we have Madame Yorlin Neyring. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon and good every moment in the world, colleagues. So happy to see you all here gathered. So happy that the online forum brings us together once again. Since ever, we have been engaging in giving visibility and enhancing accessibility to living heritage in the spirit of the convention. Indeed, this has been one of the main efforts we all have made in the first decades of working on the ICH convention. This year of celebrating the 20th anniversary of the convention is also another invitation to join this effort. I really want to express that the JIAPICH Award has been a wonderful initiative in this regard. It has been raising attention to ICH to so many actors that are not always so visible within, for example, UNESCO frameworks itself, but that have been contributing in many ways to these shared efforts. Seeing the awarded and other colleagues here together, so is very precious. There's other examples as well that are following the JIAPICH example and which are so great to see from wider civil society networks, such as the Wiki Loves Living Heritage this year. To celebrate living heritage, this campaign has been launched in the spring of 2023 with the idea of being a participatory, community-driven initiative calling on to practitioners, volunteers, Wikimedia people, cultural heritage institutions around the world to document and celebrate and so give access to this living heritage. The common goal being to integrate awareness raising and documentation activities in a participatory manner, online and grassroots, to enhance the safeguarding of living heritage worldwide. It combines this strong commitment to ethical sharing while promoting open access to cultural heritage. So it's really in the heart of the topic you're raising today. Another accessibility exercise is, of course, tourism. It's another context in which accessibility will always be an exercise and a question. Through elaborating a web dossier on living heritage and sustainable tourism, accredited NGOs in the past years have intended to feed also this reflection and to assist all those who wish in the development of sustainable ICH tourism. This boasts mutual dialogue and cooperation and aims to create a platform where key actors and networks committed to develop good practices on tourism and living heritage can get together. So I see that a lot of efforts in the same direction are being developed and have more and more crossover, and I'm so happy to see this all happening. Speak later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madame Neyring. Next, we have Madame Noriko Aikawa with her expertise. The floor is yours.
I was told to speak about the public accessibility of ICH and the future direction of JIAPICH. UNESCO 2003 convention gives a definition on ICH and it mentions that ICH as the practices, representations, expressions, knowledge, skills, as well as the instrument, object, artifact, and cultural spaces associated therewith, that communities, groups, and in some cases individuals recognize as part of their cultural heritage. This intangible heritage, transmitted from generation to generation, is constantly recreated by communities and groups in response to their environment, their interaction with nature and their history, and provide them with a sense of identity and continuity. And then it says that the ICH is manifested in the different areas. But I mention this because it is very often that the definition, initial definition given in the UNESCO Convention is not, is very often forgotten. So I think it's very important to remind this definition if we want to follow the UNESCO Convention on the Intangible Cultural Heritage. It is also underscored in the definition that the solely ICH, which is compatible to the international human rights instrument, is considered. So therefore, that ICH is created, transmitted, and recreated by practitioners of the heritage and is entirely accessible to the practitioners themselves and general public. The master of the ICH is the practitioners and the publics. This is very important. And the JIAPICH, whose activities began in 2019, grant annually $30,000 to practitioners, groups, and communities administrators. And the award is granted to the local communities, NGOs, and administrators who undertook the good safeguarding practices by ICH. It is conversely to UNESCO Convention for the safeguarding ICH that which according to its nature of intergovernmental nature, everything should go through the government, while JIAPICH can have direct access to the communities of different countries, which is a great advantage of JIAPICH. Then I would like to say that this prize, which specificity is the community-based character and has been well known not only locally but also sub-regionally and regionally. The selection process is made with a great care, including verification of the ICH element by the prize organizers who visit the element on the spot, and the examination of the candidature with close scrutiny by the jury members. The selection criteria currently in use are rather abstract. These criteria could become more concrete and explicit and could be divided into the several categories. The selection criteria could become more concrete and explicit and could be divided into several categories such as safeguarding activities, training activities, and promotional activities. I recommend that, first of all, the selection criteria be reviewed. The wording used in the text of criteria, in the current criteria, should be less abstract and more concrete. Moreover, once the prize is granted, the increasing effort could be made to disseminate the good ICH safeguarding examples included in the awardee's safeguarding activity. These examples could include legal protection, training activities, such as integration of ICH safeguarding activities within the school curriculums, and different promotional activities through internet, media, exhibition, and publications. An effort could be made to recruit increasing number of candidature from local communities, given that the JIAPICH has a direct access to the local communities. JIAPICH Prize will thus become better known worldwide, and the examples of good ICH safeguarding practices, including in the winning candidature, will be shown as good safeguarding practices. This year, in 2023, as many as 150 candidatures have been received. This proves that increasing success over JIAPICH awards, and I wish the further development of the JIAPICH awards worldwide. Thank you.
Thank you, Madame Aikawa, for your input. Next, we have Professor Semina Oh of Jeonbuk National University. The floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Semina Oh. I'm a research professor at Jeonbuk National University. I have been studying ICH of Korea while working as part of the Jeonju ICT Award Secretariat since 2019 as an expert. It's an honor to be here with all of you today. All the presentations were impressive and inspiring. My presentation will focus on contemplating the future direction of the Jeonju ICH Award, which is in its 5th anniversary this year. I will also mention the history of the Jeonju ICH Award and its meaning up until now. Jeonju is a city of traditional culture and is the place where numerous intangible cultural heritages have blossomed based on its long history and rich tradition. As a city, branded as having the most Korean traditional style and taste, we are constantly striving to pass on and develop our traditional ways, such as pansori, hanji, hanok, bibimbap, Korean food, and traditional crafts, even amidst the changed times. For that reason, Jeonju is also a city that currently holds the largest number of intangible cultural properties in Korea. Although the Jeonju ICH Award is the only award in the world of its kind, in fact, the Korean government has previous experience in enacting and operating the Arirang Award from 2001 to 2005. In 1998, in order to encourage the safeguarding of oral traditions and ICH in danger of extinction by governments, NGOs, and local communities, and to promote Korean culture to the world, the first biannual Arirang Award was held on October 2001 within UNESCO. Hot of the Ifugao from the Philippines and cultural space of Sosobala in Nagasaki from Guinea were selected as the awardee for the first Arirang Award. In 2003, Vanuatu sending drawings and the polyphonic singing of the Aka Pygmy in the Central African Republic were selected. And in 2005, Dramete Nicham in Bhutan and Chapi Tambila of the Mozambique was awarded. However, the Arirang Awards did not last long, and in 2009, the Arirang Award was abolished. In the background, there were controversies over ranking ICH against the UNESCO Convention, as well as a request from UNESCO to the Korean government for an increase in fund, and a change in the name of the award from Arirang Award to UNESCO Arirang Award, so on. All of this was unfortunate news for international ICH holders. In this process, in 2018, Jeonju started a new initiative. For the first time, as a local government, Jeonju City decided to gather those who contributed to safeguarding and transmitting ICH, and established the Jeonju ICH Award. Jeonju has set out to play a leading role for global harmony, development of human culture, and sustainable development of the future by sharing the value of ICH with the world. Within Korea, ICH is often handed down in local communities, and each local government, rather than the state, has a closer relationship with the ICH communities. So it is most meaningful that the Jeonju Award was established by a local government rather than at the state or national level. Meanwhile, the pandemic that started in December 2009 spread rapidly around the world, and everything stopped overnight. The field of ICH, which had been shunned from the public view before the pandemic, become more difficult in receiving the spotlight as the risk of transmission began to be detected in communities. Amidst the difficulty, the Jeonju ICH Award provided great comfort and strength to ICH holders around the world. The Jeonju ICH Award gave the spotlight and platform to the ICH holders around the world, and it let their stories of resilience be shared among the international ICH communities. Finally, another meaningful step in the right direction is this year's colloquium. Starting with the first Jeonju ICH Award in 2009, this year marks its 5th years in existence. As I said, the Jeonju ICH Award has made it possible for various organizations and actors come together in meetings like this to show international solidarity. Various ICH holders in the field of ICH around the world gathered today in one place to discuss the direction of future development. The theme of this colloquium, public accessibility, is also a very important topic that Korea should begin critical reflection on. This colloquium will focus on issues related to the public accessibility of ICH in Korea and will hopefully become the starting point for future discussions on ICH. I was able to learn a lot from your presentation and many specialists in here and input. Anyway, as a participant in this colloquium and a person studying ICH, I would like to express my gratitude. I hope that all of your activities will continue and be widely known around the world. Your culture, representing your culture and region to be celebrated, safeguarded, and transmitted. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor O. Next, we have Madame Jessica Rossi. The floor is yours.
Thank you, and good everything to everybody around the world. I'm Jessica Rossi from University of Naples, L'Orientale, but now in Seoul. And I'm very grateful for this invitation. And someone will say I'll probably have the ungrateful role of closing the discussion, but I think it's also something which I'm lucky of, because I can say that I could enjoy all the presentation and all the beautiful experiences and all of my colleagues' comments on the future of ICH. And one of the most important elements when talking about CH that we saw during the presentations is communities. As reminded by the 2003 convention and by the 2005 Faro convention as well. Communities are actual people coming together and expressing their traditional culture. It is usually something they feel to be part of, which resonates within their hearts and in their bodies. As we saw from our presentations, especially one of the experiences who struck me the most is the one by Emily, because of her passion and of her history, her background. And of course, today's ICH biggest challenge is to attract new people inside the existing communities, but sometimes also exhausted communities. This challenge has never been so hard, and it's where the concept of public accessibilities come to hands. And the meaning of public accessibility can be reduced to the following for me. It can be said to be things that are done by the state or by its branches, such as also cultural associations, for the people. This is, of course, a simplification because it includes many different public and organizational levels, as well as implies various types of stakeholders within the general public, as well within the experts. For this reason, it is foremost important to hold an effective and efficient strategy at the central, or better, sometimes the national level. This would allow to use all the resources in the best way and with the least possible loss. As it concerns the Italian situation, or better, the current situation, unfortunately, have a very negative view, and I cannot see any moves towards this direction. On the contrary, a new strategy has been proposed, and it is going to overlap all the previous strategies. And this is, of course, resulting in an inefficiency and inconsistencies of the whole system in the long term. Sometimes also disaggregating the goals and the means of communities which need to keep up with the political change. Moreover, ways and means used for widening public accessibility always remain outdated, or almost all the times. Most of the time, they are even disconnected from the latest technological tools and the online world. Thanks to the JIAPICH, I had the chance to take part in the application submission of El Felce for 2021 prize. El Felce is a cultural association based in Venice for gondola makers. And it was a great opportunity for me to revise all the activities we carried out by with the association's members in its 20 years of work. Public accessibility for El Felce meant organizing schools workshops in atelier, making exhibitions in Italy and abroad, organizing cultural events and meetings with the general public, and fostering community cohesion, just like many of the experiences we just heard today. Unfortunately, since 2010, the interest of the local government has slowly vanished, leaving the association without a coherent and comprehensive direction, and without any financial help, of course. The Italian constitutions recognize this in Article 117, the decentralization of cultural administration to the regions. However, the legislative framework is not clear, making it complicated to appoint the various responsibilities. In this sense, I would like to underline the importance of good policies to foster ICH public accessibility in the wider perspective of reestablishing a more democratic use of culture. Accessibility means participation, which leads to active citizenship and commitment to the community. Thank you all for listening to me, and I hope you enjoy today's meeting.
Thank you, Madame Rossi. And thank you to all the expert panels for giving such insightful ideas about the Jeonju ICH Award, as well as the public accessibility of ICH. Now we will go into our Q&A session. The Q&A is open to both the presentations, the four presenters during part one, and it's open to our expert panel that just gave their insights about the Jeonju ICH Award, as well as the public accessibility of ICH. Now we will take our questions by raising our hand in the Zoom. There is a button to raise hand. I don't know if most of you know this function. So if you have a question, please raise your hand and hopefully we can get to you. within the given about 10 minutes, 10-minute time frame. Okay. Okay, do we have a question? Oh, yes, Professor Zuckerman. Go ahead.
Hi, Xinhua. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wonder, Xinhua, do you have an update about the future of our prize? You know, like how many years are we safe for? Anything about that? So I know that there was a new mayor, I just remember from last year. So are we safe for the next 10 years, or I mean, what's going on?
So at the moment, we're working on passing a bylaw here in Cheonju City, through the council, so that the Cheonju ICH Award initiative will become part of the ICH safeguarding law of Cheonju City. And again, you know, this was briefly mentioned by Professor Samina, who mentioned that, you know, this is a Cheonju ICH Award is unique because it's the only international award of its kind, but it's not you know, funded by the government or even by state. It's a municipality initiative. So in that sense, we are hopeful that Cheonju City will keep the awards, as Cheonju's slogan is, it's the most traditional city in Korea. So if we want to keep that slogan, I think it would be worth having this award for the next, you know, forever, because if it passes the bylaw, then it will be finalized, and we won't have to worry about the budget and so.
So the bylaw, how long does it take to pass a bylaw? Is it a year or two?
I believe we will have, we're working on the wording right now. So we'll pass that on to the Cheonju City officials, probably sometime in the fall. And you know, by the end of the year, hopefully we'll have some more concrete answers for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Who just raised the hand?
Yeah, this is me, Shyam Sundar. Anyway, thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity that you have provided for us to hear about ICS and to establish the network, probably with all of the expertise and then the participants. Anyway, actually, I think my question was addressed by anyway, it has been addressed, but still I would like to put it down here in this platform. Since we are talking about intangible cultural heritage, when we talk about its continuity and then its sustainability, it always ends up into economic benefits of the artisans who are responsible for the upkeep of the ICS, intangible cultural heritage. So especially if we don't adopt an entrepreneurial model, just like the intangible cultural heritage, which are related to the spiritual and then religious associations. In such cases, how do we think of like, making or attracting those artisans to upkeep those intangible heritage? One and other is, I think I have heard somewhere from here, from the experts, about the democratic model for accessibility, public accessibility into intangible cultural heritage. In some of the practices of intangible cultural heritage, we have, like, their understanding of the intangible cultural heritage is much more limited to the local community. So when we have the diverse kind of participation into these practices, would there be any chances of threat to, like, violating the violating the essences of those intangible cultural heritage practices? These are the two questions that I have in my mind for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kawan. I think this was touched upon by Ambassador Choi, who briefly mentioned about cultural ownership and how the less educated and perhaps the poor nation may ignore the ICH laws. So I would like to just recommend Ambassador Choi to answer Mr. Kawan's question.
Yes, I think ICH people should try to get the economic benefits here, in particular for the artisans, ICH builders, and ICH practitioners, to preserve and protect the ICH. And in this regard, as mentioned by Yulin, I think we should try to encourage the tourism industry to be increased and be popular in the fields of ICH. In particular, in cooperation with the UNESCO, as well as in collaboration with the governments of each country. And also, I think it is very important to try to share the experiences of ICH and enjoy the ICH practices in younger generations. That's the two. That's the idea which I have right now. Two things. Okay.
Yeah, and can I would like to add something to the question from Mr. Kawan. In Korean case, in the sacrifice of economic benefit of artisans, government actually supported some funds for transmitting the ICH, the craftsmanship, to the future generations, but it's not that enough amount of money, so that I could heard a lot of the dissatisfaction from the artisan group. But anyway, that's one of the effort made by the government, the Korean government, to give like a monthly base the funds. Yeah.
And also, I would like to add another thing. Of course, this is very important to get the government fund. Nevertheless, we should try to raise the entrepreneurship, as mentioned, entrepreneurship among the ICH related people. But how? That is the question.
Thank you, Ambassador Choi and Director Ham. I hope this answered Mr. Kawan's question. Because of time constraint, we only have one more question to get to. I see that Mr. Aline has his hand up. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to say a big thank you to that great Jeonju initiative. I just like to react on once more what Ambassador Cho said regarding the state of affairs of Africa as a continent. And as we know, Mauritius forms part of Africa. I just wanted to know whether there could be some sort of a special mechanism in that initiative, in that great initiative, to favor African countries in terms of putting some more facilities, because we are really at great risk of losing so much of ICH in Africa. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Aline. Would Ambassador Choi again would like to answer this?
Okay, thank you. Yes, I think UNESCO has a good project, in particular focused on Africa, which you can find how to get the assistances and also the information relating to ICH promotion for the African continent. In the homepage, or you can find all the information on the UNESCO homepage, as well as the UNESCO office in the region. And beyond that, I think in the conferences or the workshops gathered all around the world, we should we'd better to try to find out the ways to provide the African countries with the maximum assistances, or which we can provide. I mean, we'll be able to provide. That's my answer. It's sufficient, I hope.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. I hope that answered Mr. Lane's question about perhaps giving African nations a level up in certain initiatives, because they're in danger of losing a lot of their ICH. The Jeonju International Awards for promoting intangible cultural heritage faced this issue last year when we received many applications from African nations that lacked in certain ways of actually writing the application. So there was some serious discussion among the jury panel in regards to this, because the JIAPICH does not mean the winners or the finalists or the awardees. Just because they write, you know, a great application should not be the ones to receive the awards. So we are aware of this problem, and you know, we are hopeful that the awards will continue for the next 10 years, in which case we will be able to work on this problem to implement educational workshops for the African nations to write the applications in a proper way, as well as inventorying ICH data and the importance of cultural heritage in that regards. So to conclude our 2023 JIAPICH Online Colloquium, we have Director Hani Ham of the Center for Culture Intangible Culture Studies, who will speak about our international online forum. The floor is yours.
The last because it's very, very late in. I really thankful to presenters and commentators, and it's very thoughtful and also insightful. And particularly the several, the comments and advices came into my mind. Professor Jukuman said, topological, am I right? Topological revolution. And he fears, not only he, but everybody, probably, the many people are fearful in ChatGPT, the AI generations. Upon the arriving, the quick, the AI, the technologies, the danger of ICH is serious. I would, I agree with you. So, and also the very specific the comments on the JIAPICH's, the administrative some shortages, as Madam Aikawa commented on that. We should always recall the spirit of the convention. And one of the advantage of JIAPICH is the direct contact to the community. But we have to revise our criteria to be more clear and clarify the criteria are needed after in the future. So we will work with that. Thank you very much for your pointing that the necessary, the work we should do. And also the Jolin and Gala and other the ambassador chair talk about the network with other, the global areas. There's something going on, and in African situation, we should look for the African situation. And also some efforts have done by the other NGOs and experts and UNESCO. And we, the JIAPICH, should have a relation or network with the such a kind of efforts and the works. That's very important to make the future plan or the JIAPICH to promote. So we should listen to that kind of advices. The purpose of our the awards, JIAPICH, is to encourage the safeguarding activities of ICH and sharing good exemplary cases that are not widely known to us. This year's award ceremony is already in its 5th year, and also this biennial colloquium event is to reflect on the process and outcomes of the awards. This event would make the awards grow and make the safeguarding activities of diverse ICH in diverse area and worldwide. And I'm sending my gratitude to all the participants and presenters. All the precious comments, advice, and plans are very much appreciated. We are always open with all of you about the awards. in this process, we one of the safeguarding activities, CICS as a secretary wanted to this award to be continued for long. For this, we are putting a lot of efforts with your support and help. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Han, for your summary of the online colloquium. Now is the time to conclude our online forum. The turnout for this online forum, we were expecting about 30, maybe 40 people, and we had well over 50 at 1.6. So we're very excited that the number of participants has grown, and it has exceeded our expectation for the online forum today. Just to briefly sum up the schedule for this year's Jeonju ICH Awards. The Jeonju ICH Awards is scheduled for September 2nd here in Jeonju. This year's finalists will be decided and announced on July 17th of next month. Please visit our homepage for further updates about this year's program. And and hopefully with the Jeonju initiative passing with the bylaws, we will have the JIAPICH next year and the year after that. We are very hopeful that this will be the case. Some final thoughts before concluding our online ceremony. As a student of anthropology, sociology, psychology, and linguistics, the notion of perceived identity is something that all of us cannot hide from. When I travel abroad, people that I have never met before have an idea of where I come from, basing it on my ethnicity and culture. This is why it is important that we know our culture to know ourselves and teach it to our next generation so that they are aware of what is our cultural identity. We are who we are because of what our past has made us. Thank you very much for all your support. Have a wonderful rest of your day.